relaxing, and we're not going to be difficult on ourselves. And we had a very, very, very busy morning, and yes, our womb is growing, and it's amazing, and it's nice, and it's firm, and it's requiring us to be very calm because it's stretching, and it's the whole time by the stretchingness of the womb. And this morning, we really want to talk about the womb in general. We really want to talk about the womb of our generation, right? There's a lot to discuss in our podcast about the womb. And there's a lot that we want to discuss in our podcast about the womb of where our generation finds themselves at, in the womb of what our generation have been challenged with. And before I start with this video, with this discussion, and before we really start with where we are at in our season, we really want everyone to listen to the requirement for nurturing in our generation. It's not a requirement for the baby in our generation that is every one of us, that forms part of every one of us, right? Because we all form part of the amazing womb in the universe. But for mankind, for humanity to find themselves through that they were challenged with, right? That was challenging to them. And that they have to listen to, that they are required to react on. That is the womb that they are born from. The womb that every one of us are born from in our seasons, and the womb that we are required to respond with that is fine for us in our seasons, and that is protected for us in our seasons, and for where we find ourselves at in our seasons. And when we discuss the womb, we firmly discuss on how the womb in our generation are being stretched. And while my womb are expanding and it's stretching, and I have to make sure that while the womb are stretching, that baby is fine and that I'm fine. And while our generation finds themselves in that is the parentingness of the womb in our generation. And they find themselves being part of that is the stretchingness of the womb. That is how the womb are stretching in season. We find ourselves being affected by how the womb are stretching in our generation, and how mankind finds themselves being part of the painfulness of the stretch that is the womb of the human beings that are being stretched in our season and in our generation. And when we say the womb of our generation, we exactly explain it being that is the requirement for our generation to nurture the baby. And the baby is all of us. And I always say it's all of us, right? And when it's all of us, we need to nurture with that is going to be fine for the womb, and that is going to be protective for the womb, and that's going to be not challenging for us with where we find ourselves at, with how the womb are stretching and how the womb are moving in the universe, and how we are being affected by how the womb are moving in the universe. And while we are at that, we allow ourselves to listen to what is happening in the world, and what is our reaction, and how is our reaction going to be fine on the womb, and how is our reaction going to be fine on ourselves being human beings, being part of the amazing womb in the universe. That's what we want to discuss. And with our September, yes, we're in the month of September, it is springtime. We are really appreciating the springness of it, but we are really relaxing, and we are really not difficult on ourselves. I always say, everyone, don't make it difficult on yourselves. Be easy on yourselves. Be easy on yourselves, Be easygoing. Don't make it challenging for where you'll find yourselves at. And don't make it challenging for what the circumstances are with where you're at, or with what you're challenged at. Be easy on yourselves. And being easy on ourselves is everything that AWOKH discussed forms part of where our generation finds themselves at. And being easy on ourselves means our generation has had a lot that our generation were the one not realizing what the other one is saying, and the one not realizing what the other one was required. And it's the whole time, that our generation is the whole time, in different directions with one another. And when we are generation being in different directions with the one with the other, then we have to listen to how does that difference, how does it affect the womb, how does it affect us personally, and how does it affect where we find ourselves at, right? When we find ourselves challenging ourselves, then we find ourselves making it more difficult for where we are at in our seasons. And then our generation in general, in the broader picture of it, makes it about colors all the pictures of it. And about says then we make it more difficult for ourselves and where our generation finds themselves in, and how they are required to react and how they are reacting with where they're at in season. And it is those challenges that can sometimes be requiring much of mankind, or mankind can be fine and mankind can be at ease with where they're at. It's not difficult. I always say, and when we started our book discussing with people of color, we said that it's a 1+1, it's a wombness and it's a babyness and it's a parentingness, and it's all of us in this amazing universe. And when it comes to being all of us, then we have to educate ourselves to not be difficult about it, to not be challenging ourselves too much about it, to not be making it too tiring for us. It's as easy as a 1+1 mathematics that we learn in primary school. And for those who didn't go to school, it's as simple as looking around, listening to what's required of us, and doing exactly what's required of us in our season, And so that our generation wants to find everything that someone says is becoming a battle to humanity. And everything that Ribea, Elise, and AWOKH advocate, someone wants to argue and they want to have a discussion around it. And what we educate in that season is the womb be so sensitive about it. Because when you want to argue about what Ribea, Elise's business are for and what Ribea, Elise are representing in AWOKH business, then you are making it difficult on yourselves. Because the womb are so much challenged already. Mankind are so much challenged already with all that is happening and with everyone requiring that there is a fine day for themselves in a normal day. When everyone requires a fine day and everyone are given a spring season, we said with AWOKH yesterday, and a motivational message that the spring season can blossom. It's amazing and it's given to everyone, but not everyone knows how to accept it. And AWOKH always says not everyone knows how to accept your spring season. And for some people, it looks like someone else's spring season looks blossoming, and then someone else is manipulating someone else to have a blossoming spring season. When our generation learn that mankind has manipulated one another, they have abused one another, they have manipulated one another to where some households find themselves fine at, in other households in the world. And the womb looks like the womb is not fair with everyone, because one household has what it requires and other households sit with poverty and without food and without a house to stay in. People even sleep on the street in our generation, and other people in our generation even have $1 billion in their bank account sometimes. Most of the times $100,000. All that is happening amongst humanity in the same womb is that when we look at the womb, we educate ourselves that spring season is for everyone. It's for everyone. And most people receiving their spring seasons, they receive it with the kindness of it, and they react as if they are the kindest people in the whole world. And what does AWOKH business educate you? It's not the most quietest person that is going to be the spring blossomingness of a generation, because a generation finds himself abused and aggressed and oppressed while someone else's spring season are blossoming somewhere, It is not difficult for mankind to learn that do not be abused and deprived and manipulated with your womb, and that has given you the fairness to be part of the new day. And you sometimes find yourself being the person that sleeps on the tree, and someone else tells you that they are better up in decision making because you're the person sleeping on the street and they are the person that have the house and $1 billion. And when you look at the womb itself, you learn that the womb is a fair womb. The womb gives this day to everyone out there. The womb gives this bright spring season to everyone out there. Today, mankind, humanity manipulates one another with that. And today the womb educates humanity. And then I birthed this baby again. Look at Africa. We were talking about the womb of Africa. I'm from the womb of Africa myself. And the womb of Africa educates that I give this baby and I birthed it unto earth. And the world, humanity tells Africa that that baby will sit in poverty like that for many generations. And then humanity educates on the same television channel that, look, there's women in that country. And then they have Bill Gates in a generation that's a billionaire. The same human beings that today New Zealand is the quietest country. And there's countries today that doesn't have, that find themselves in poverty. And other people are still oppressing the Maoris also in New Zealand to be sitting like Africa a few generations from today. The Maoris are also constantly in fights with arguments in the world. Because some people want to also have them sit like that also. And Ribea finds herself in Maori land today, and she learned that the wind is blowing exactly like that in a generation. And the same will educated humanity that this is school, this is education, this is right from wrong, this is the church, this is protected for mankind, this is decision making, this is the different religions. The one wants to be Muslim, the other one wants to be Christian. It's fine, they will give everything to everyone that they want. The only thing the womb requires of humanity is to not abuse and to not oppress one another like that. And it's not so difficult. It's not difficult. The womb says there's a billionaire and there's someone without food. Who's got the money? The womb says all of these countries have been one continent many generations ago. And today, they all want to look at one another and look at the one person sitting in poverty about it and the other person having a blossomingness about it. You know, say it the way it is. Ribea says it the way it is about. This is spring season. It's amazing. I didn't even have a flower dress on yesterday. Some people say, spring means flowering. You cannot present something that is not happening. Spring means flowering in a generation. Ribea says this is how the generation looks. Ripped from this way, ripped to that way, a little bit ripped there, a little bit crickled there, a little bit distracted there, a little bit disrupted there. And we just edit the photo quickly so that it looks fine for everyone. Why should Ribea do that? Why should we lie to one another? This is a calm country, but it's part of the world. If there is, give to the world also, Ribea says. And it's not to the Maoris that I talk. I'm talking to everyone in New Zealand who's sitting in the offices and managing the processes. For other countries can talk for themselves about those processes. But where I sit at in Auckland, New Zealand, and Australia is wanting to educate Auckland, New Zealand to be like Australia, like the Aboriginal person that sits in the backyard about it. Like the dog in the backyard about it. New Zealand says on the news that they might become one with Australia with that Aboriginal mindset, and that the dog sits behind in the whole house about it, and the whole house look perfect, and the human being that is the Aboriginal is like the dog to this world, like the African to this world. The world are constantly creating that in countries, constantly creating those circumstances. You know what, my brother Zach and my brother Anthony, my brother Martin, and my brother Richard and my sister Antoinette and my mama Anna Philander and Papa Yapi educated us, is that this womb in this world is not an easy womb. But what we can do in this whole world is be fine with where you are at in your day. Don't be oppressed and don't go and submit to someone who is oppressing you. You know, my brothers, they don't go to work. Why? Because no one is going to oppress them further than the womb they are already oppressed in the generation. My brother Zach has registered his business. He has submitted his papers to the South African government. He has registered it in the Khoza surname of his family line. And if South African colored have a problem with the Khoza, then that's the South African's problem. As for him, he has submitted it onto their bulletin. And all these years, our family said we want to have our own business because we really want our own business and want to manage it in our way in South Africa. And today, Brother Zach has registered his business in the Sagila surname. And if the Sagilas are a problem, then that's the government's problem. But Zach's name is Zach Philander, and South Africa even knows that. Mama Anna Philander's children's name, Mama Anna Philander's children. And Brother Anthony had made a statement, the world has abused and disrespected his mama's womb. And because of that, he's firm and he does not work for manager who's going to disrespect him while he's employed. No one has to oppress no one. Aboriginal don't have to sit in poverty in Australia while the whole Australia is an amazing place for everyone to go and have a vacation about. Now those same people are trying to create that environment in this Auckland, New Zealand. While Ribea says this womb is amazing, but it's for everyone a fair day. A fair day, the world says. A fair day. This universe has given this spring season to everyone. So Africa already started also with spring season. Other countries are in different seasons. It's the same sun that shines, yes, we learn. AWOKH says it's the same day that AWOKH in a day. Our business educates is the same AWOKH day for everyone. The womb is not a difficult womb. I said in HR 23 last week, don't tell me that the world wants to be first world and third world countries. If you learn that there's countries in poverty, provide for them. Don't want to create third world meetings and first world country meetings. Because it's such a time in our generation, war can strike any country about it. And in our generation, we don't need first world education and third world education. Our generation has gone through those seasons of education. Our generation are intelligent enough to find their way through that. No one has to sit in a circumstance that is called the third world circumstance of poverty because of an economic state of the countries that wants to be in competition with one another the whole time. War strikes any country, we always say. And only because of that, get the processes in the world right. Don't tell Ribea, Elise, that it was a famine in Africa. Get the processes in the world right. Don't tell Ribea, Elise, that Cyril Ramaphosa is having the money. Ribea, Elise tells you, get the processes in this world right. Because Cyril Ramaphosa is now not Ribea, Elise in Africa or in New Zealand about it. Cyril Ramaphosa and his $1 billion is his education about himself. And as for the world in general, every baby is born from the womb individually, independently. Some babies, double babies in the womb, other babies triple, and other quadruple, and whatever happens in the womb. But the world is the world independently humanity stands. Independently, they have to reason, and then they say, yes, Ribea, but Pastor Green has got two greennesses. And Ribea says, but independently, the womb educates us. Don't tell Ribea, Elise, that Africa has to sit in poverty like that all the generations, or whatever country is sitting in poverty about it. Because of an economic education, the economic class. You know what I told the mathematics class those years? I said to the teacher, I cannot do this mathematics because I want to have the situation in this world as simple as 1 + 1. And I don't go to the other mathematics classes. And the economic teacher said, you're Ribea, but you can't do economics and you're very good with these mathematics things. And Ribea said, the reason Ribea didn't say it with words, but our reaction in education in the universe at secondary, all in secondary school was exactly that. The education in this world is that the mathematics class, leave those economics and those mathematical functions for someone else. Yes, we have today accountants in our families. And he's accountant today. She's studying accountant. The father is an accountant also, Antoinette's husband, my sister's husband. And the daughter is now second year in accountancy. We have mathematics, but we don't have to make the processes in the world simple. And that's what our family educates. And Mama Anna used to say, I don't have education and I can't read and write, but don't come and think that I am dumb and stupid about these processes, you know? Because no one in the world is dumb and stupid. There, Mama Anna's children and grandchildren is at university. Because no one is stupid in this world. The world is a fair place and the spring season are for everyone, and the womb is an amazing fair womb. And in such a season, the only thing we can motivate with our breakfast talk today, with all that we say and all that we can say, is that the womb is a fair womb, and the spring season is for everyone. And we don't want anyone to tell us anything different. And if your military still want to argue their own womb, that's up for those countries who want to argue their own womb. But for every one of us who's not in that argument, in our own human flesh, is saying today that this womb is a fair womb. And it blossoms and it springs over this whole universe and earth. So yeah, South Africa and Cape Town and Johannesburg can also end there. I really don't know what. They are very intelligent, both the Xhosa people and both the colored people in South Africa. And both the Europeans. And I know all of those arguments that is happening in South Africa in our season has got to do so with apartheid procedures and processes that some people still want to hold on to. But I can say to Cape Town and to Johannesburg, to the Xhosa people and to the colored people and to the Afrikaners, that really there's no reason for South Africa to fight like that. There's no reason for South Africa to argue like that. The only thing that everyone can do that sits in the offices and that manage the processes is manage the processes so that it's fine for everyone. That's basically what everyone can do, manage the processes so that it's non-abusive to the South African person. You know, young children, young boys in South Africa has been on drugs for years. My brother Anton, they don't complain about how they have sometimes been oppressed about it. But there's some boys that feel that really the oppression was really too much on them. The only thing that the people in the country can do is make it fine for everyone of the group, you know. My sister Antoinette here, she traveled to South Africa last year and she traveled this year and she said she's again going to travel this year because she's making it fine for my brothers so that they don't complain about what they do not have and what they still require in their day. When I make it fine for my brothers financially. I make sure that the house are fine and that there's electricity. When I don't have, then it's fine. But when I do have, I make sure that everything is fine. And Sunette travels now, how many years he has now traveled to South Africa to make sure that they have food at least. If the electricity, because the government is messing with the house about it, that's the government's own arguments. And Sunette's leaving that argument, and I'm leaving that argument because my mama Anna has worked very hard for a house, and she paid her house with the money that she has worked very hard for the government. And now that her house is finished paying, now the government has messed with the electricity about it. The government has messed with a whole lot of rates and taxes about it. And we are not arguing with the South African government about Mama Anna Philander's house and about how our mother used to work. And we are not fixing the electricity. No, the house's electricity is up. We are not fixing nothing. I don't have money. The Mama Universe does not require this Ribea Elise to have money to fix the house because Mama Universe exactly knows that I'm going to fix the house when I have money in my bank account. But Mama Universe is dealing with South Africa because Mama Anna has worked her years earnestly every day and every night shift and day shift to pay a house, and the house is finished paid, and she bought a house and she bought a whole big house for children, for Martin and Anton to stay in. Because what did my mama say those years? When I'm not there anymore one day, my children, then there should be a house for y'all and y'all should be fine. And then my mama, the house was fine and the house is paid and my mama is not there anymore. But now the government is putting the rates and taxes, this whole time rates and taxes letters from South African government because they want to take the house away from Martin and Anton. Why? Because they listened into my mama's education in the house. My mama said, I gave this house to my children. When they are in South Africa, they should not be houseless. And I want to buy this house so that they have a house for themselves, you know. Now the South African government are playing with that education about it. What the South African government are busy with, I really don't know, and I really don't care. And I'm really not going to be bothered about it. But there's a time when we say as a generation, enough is enough of y'all. Enough is enough. Some young boys in South Africa, they go through those drug challenges on a daily basis. And they go through the pain and they go through the humiliation, and their mamas don't have food, and their mamas don't have this, and their mamas are being oppressed in the community. And there's a time when everyone in the world says enough of these oppressions are enough. Brother Zak's business is registered. All these years South Africa listened into Brother Zak's conversations with me in our house. They all these years had computers in our house and radio recordings. And Brother Zak said he wants to build our house upstairs. Brother Zak built the house for my mama, finished, right? And Brother Zak was employed those years at Golden Valley Casino. And while he was employed, he built the house for my mama, 3-bedroom. And then, because the house used to be a 2-bedroom, and we were 7 children and 6 children in the house, and there was always someone staying with us. And then he was employed, and he made the circumstances easy for my mama Anna, right? And then Brother Zak had a vision that he wants to own his own business because he wants to make it easy for the teenagers and for the young boys, because he's a father himself and he's got 2 young boys, and he just wants to have his young boys be employed because his young boys don't also want to go to the offices and be oppressed by the same processes and HR teams that are sitting in the meetings of government that are fighting our households from those meetings, you know. And then he had a vision that he just wants to manage a business himself and he don't want to argue with no one about it. So now he's registered, and all of those documents are submitted, and then South Africa made a television program about Brother Zak, and they called Brother Zak, Buyo the Big Dreamer. And every time Brother Zak goes in, he are employed, and South Africa puts a television program on for Ribea. It was an advert on a big boat, and South Africa had a good laugh with Brother Zak that's dreaming to own his own business. And South Africa says to America and to all the communications that they have in the world, there's Buyo the Big Dreamer going again about it. But his business are registered. He's amazingly where he's at. His boys are challenged in Paul community because they constantly travel to Paul community. And he's not challenged about it because he has registered his business and he's where he's required to be. And the only thing we are saying to the South African government is oppression was enough for those years of generations. What South Africa now requires are fairness. The gangsters require fairness. The gangsters are not going to do dirty work of parliamentary leaders anymore. Everyone in countries, the young boys, we require fairness for our young people. And we are going to manage the processes ourselves. We are going to own the businesses ourselves, and we're going to do it ourselves, however we can. That's where we are at with the womb in South Africa, and that we are not angry, but fairness is fairness in this world. South Africa want to create Africa environments in a different way. People sitting in poverty and in famine in a different way. They all manage the economy of the world like that. And then South Africa implemented that process in South Africa, and then they wanted to implement that process in Mama Anna Philander's house. But then they did not realize where Ribea Elise found herself at in a season. They did not realize where Antoinette found herself at. They did not realize who Mama Anna Philander in the universeness of it is. When they messed with Brother Martin's work and employment at tanker services those years, and they threw Brother Martin out of the train, they did not realize the career of Martin that they were messing with. And they did not realize when they messed with Brother Richard Philander's life and the Orleans Secondary School. They didn't realize that all those communications to America that they have had. When they tried to mess with Anton Philander from a very young age in the community, then they didn't realize the battle that they are busy making in South Africa for themselves. Because fairness in this world is fairness in this world. They are still trying to mess with Brother Richard Philander's daughter every time she's employed somewhere. And then they send messages about her, and it's a whole disruption at the employment offices the whole time. Rousseau Peterson, she's constantly employed, and she's very intelligent, and they're constantly like New Orleans Secondary School trying to send messages about the daughter around. What we say is we are not difficult people, but fairness in this world is fairness. And no one in this world is going to oppress no one. And Jeanette in England finds herself amazingly employed. And South Africa is trying to send word the whole time to the English government about Antoinette Philander and about Antoinette's daughters. Antoinette is not bothered about it. They don't know about the things that Ribea at least know on a human level about those communications. McDonald's South Africa is sending messages about Antoinette's daughter to McDonald's in England. McDonald's Power community. from the British American Tobacco Communication Line, and from Philip Morris in New Zealand Communication Line. And they're constantly trying to oppress families and households. And those Ribea and Elise are saying that the world is a fair world and we are not difficult at one another. But fairness are required and no one is going to oppress no one's houses. That's where I'm at with today's discussion and with what I wanted to say and with where I want to have us be in this season. It is that I find myself listening into all of these discussions that people are having about us, and everyone are pretentious about it. They call it a Joe Biden State of the Nation address of 2023 with Becky Sele of Cyril Ramaphosa with his black hat in the parliamentary discussion of the White House, that hashtag communication in this world. And Ribea Elise says, if you'll try that hashtag world ruling over my house, that way of communication and of message sending, that parliamentary leaders send messages to harm countries and to harm households in a certain way. And they used to call my uncle Umtini, that's no more there today, Becky Sele of our family. And the South African government exactly knows how they're communicating with the American government about our houses. But what I'm saying is no one in this world is going to oppress no one anymore. And we are saying this not from a Segila family line, no, from Mama Anna Philander's womb, from the womb of Anna Philander. Don't tell us that the Segilas are here or there or there. What the womb of Mama Anna Philander and Papa Yapi Philander tells all of y'all. In the womb of all the fathers in our family line, that has been the fathers to the children, is that those oppressions and world rulings, we are not accepting those oppressions over our households. And we are very firm about it. From our Anna Philander womb, we are firm and we are fair about it. My brothers don't know what I'm talking about, but I know exactly the communications that has caused them to sit like that in poverty in this world today. They don't know the communications that government are constantly sending about them in this world. My sister Antoinette and Leon in England, they don't realize the communications and the discussions that government people have about them. But what I'm telling the world today that wants to world rule houses, that Ribea said enough is enough. The seventh born daughter from the womb of Mama Anna says to all of the parliamentary leaders and principals and all of these people's authorities that wanted to rule our houses, enough is enough. I had enough of it. That is where I want to leave everyone that they're discussing today. Have an amazing day further.